Well, as the good people from South Dakota often say, John Thune is in the house. Senate Majority Leader, how are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me.
What a pleasure. Listen, you've been a very busy man this year.
A lot going
Almost
on.
1 year into this gig.
I know. It seems like 10.
I mean, you've been getting a ton done. So
we've
you've
been
got
busy.
that going for you.
Yeah.
Two things right off. I wanted to first say thank you for you and keeping the Republicans in the Senate, all that pressure to cave of being like, oh no, get this government open at any cost. And you guys held the line, did the right thing. And all of our listeners have to be thrilled about that.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
It's harder to do than...
Well, it is, and as you know, you guys, some of you've been through this. The pressure builds the farther you get into it. But of course, the Democrats said that it was about health care. I think really it was about Trump and Trump derangement syndrome. And there's a big part now of their caucus, of their conference, for whom doing anything that helps or supports anything the president might be trying to accomplish has just become anathema to them. It really is.
I think that's so true.
Yeah.
We had a story this week of a nominee who was going through committee hearings, a good friend of his on the Democratic side, who he'd worked with as a staffer on the very committee that they were before. His nomination comes up, the senator who he was friends with votes against him, right? And then afterwards comes up, pats him on the back. You're going to do a great job.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
But that's the mentality you're talking about.
It really is. It's just it's blinding, and it's made everything harder than it should be and harder than it used to be because and one of the reasons we've been in so many days, so many hours, cast more votes than any Senate in history is because the Democrats are forcing us to do everything the long way and the hard way and dragging it out. And it's unfortunate because some of these things, they're basic functions of the government, and funding the government is one of them that you ought to be able to figure out and agree on. But they really dug in on that, and unfortunately, drug the country through the longest government shutdown in history.
Well, I think we've got a graphic. Can we put up graphic 2? So this is the graphic of the number of votes that you all have taken. That's, you can see for yourself, it's dwarfing every previous Senate, which goes to your point. Not only are you having to go through this process, but you're forcing them to do it.
Yeah, it's been, and I think the next closest was 1995, which was the contract, with America Congress, and so they were really active and busy that year. But we've surpassed them, and we still got 3 weeks to go this year before the end of the year. And I think it is indicative of just kind of what we are up against right now, and the fact that so many of these things that in the past, and many of you know this, that were accomplished either by voice vote or unanimous consent, which is the way the Senate functions. Unanimous consent is a key feature of the Senate. It takes consent to almost do anything. And they just, instead of doing it that way on these routine nominees, and I wouldn't call them low-level nominees, but they're not your cabinet-level folks. And they just, forced us to use the time, burn the clock, cast the votes, and so we racked up a lot of votes. And it's, again, it's a sign of the times. It's unfortunate in a lot of ways because I think it gets harder and harder to do the big things in a bipartisan way, but even when the routine things are hard to get bipartisan support for, we're at a whole different place than we've been before.
No question about it. It also betrays a huge lack of seriousness.
Right.
You know this, before you were a leader, a whole lot of what you did for years was build relationships across the aisle, build relationships with people of different constituencies to try to get those bigger things done on a bipartisan basis, which, it used to be able to be real possible to do. But when you're just kind of a rank and file Democrat voting against nominees who are your friends.
That's a whole new level.
Like, how do you go back to somebody across the aisle and be like, hey, this is really important to my constituency. Can you help me out with this? People are going to be like, no.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I know. It's kind of mind-blowing. And it's really hard, too, because that wing is where the energy, the money, the activism, in the party is right now. It's the progressive wing, and they just, they're very unforgiving, and they want nothing more than a confrontation with Trump on every issue. So it doesn't matter how basic the issue is or how fundamental it is to actually governing the country. They just want to fight on everything. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, these relationships that you work to carve out and to build through the years to be able to do bipartisan things, it's getting increasingly difficult to accomplish that. I'm still hopeful.
Yeah.
And there are a few things I think that can actually be candidates for bipartisanship, but we'll see. I mean, it's everything, like I said, is hard.
Pulling teeth.
Where do you think are those areas to break that logjam?
Well, I mean, there are some big issues that need to be dealt with. For example, permitting reform. If you want to do projects in this country, whether they're energy related or other types of projects, it takes so long to get them sited and permitted. And it used to be that was viewed as a Republican because it's conventional energy, it's oil and gas and all that. Well, the renewable energy projects are having the same issues in terms of permitting and siting and that sort of thing. And so Shelley Capito, who chairs the relevant committee, has been working with Democrats. I mean, there are Democrats who actually have come to the table and I think want to do something there. That could be a big accomplishment for the country and unleash a lot of investment that's sitting on the sidelines because people are reluctant to invest in projects that take 20 years to get through the process. I think there's another big market structure bill that deals with digital currencies, digital assets. I think that's something could be bipartisan. They're voting today in the House, hopefully. I don't know what that vote's going to be on an NIL bill, but I'm still kind of hoping that NIL, which is a major reform, and I met with the commissioners of the Power 4 conferences today who are in town. That to me is something too. Fixing the whole challenge we face, the big challenge we face, as you guys all know, with college athletics, is something that ought to be a bipartisan issue. There'll be a highway bill next year. That used to be a farm bill. Those used to be bipartisan activities, and I hope they still can be. But it gets increasingly difficult with the political environment we're in and the amount of animosity that the progressive left has toward the president.
Yeah, it seems like anything that Trump has to sign, there's no currency from the Democratic side to put their name on any of it.
Right.
And I think I think when you talk about bipartisanship or a Senate trying to work together, you look at a state like Pennsylvania where you've got this great Republican Senator, Dave McCormick, and you've got a Democrat, John Fetterman, it feels like he's trying to be somewhat rational in the face of this far left progressive base who now, was like, you look at Blue Sky, they were openly wishing death on him when he had his fall.
Yeah.
Which almost is like a warning signal. They're trying to tell Democrats in the Senate that we don't want you to work with anybody to the right of Bernie Sanders.
Well, when you first got started, there was a lot of Fetterman types.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there are
I mean, that's why he sticks out.
But he does, and he is. He genuinely wants to do the right thing for the country, and I give him a great credit, and I have told him that personally, congratulating him for being a sane voice in a politically insane moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need more people like that, and that are willing to, like I said, put aside their, at least for a while, some of their. You get so bludgeoned by the left now. Anytime you do that, anybody who comes in the middle to try and solve a problem or get a result or a solution gets penalized and punished for it. And it used to be those are the kinds of things that were rewarded in politics,
Exactly.
And so now it's the edge, the margin, and then just the constantly wanting to fight with this president.
Yeah, well, you're about to finish up a very busy year, but headed into one that might be even busier with the election. And you mentioned a few of the issues on the table. I wonder if you could tell us what the message is for Republicans heading into the midterm.
Well, I mean, I think for us anyway, it's safer streets, more money in your pocket, and new opportunities for a better life. And those are all things that I think that we're focusing on. It's those bread and butter issues that the American people, I think, care the most about. Most elections, in my view, tend to be kind of economic elections.
Agreed.
And I think the things, and honestly, is my neighborhood safe? Is my community safe? Is my country safe? I mean, I think that safety and security are major issues, and I think the work that we've done to close the border, the work we've done on national security to get more funding into the areas that make sure that the country is secure and safe and ready to deal with what is the threat matrix that is out there in a very dangerous world. And then I think on the economic front, I mean, the things we're doing in the area of tax and regulatory policy, energy policy, will create better paying jobs, better opportunities, and expanding economy. And then just the tax stuff that we've done is more money in the pockets of the American people. I mean, the average family in this country, at least in my state, is about $2,500 less in taxes that they're going to pay next year because we extended the tax relief from 2017. If that had expired, everybody was going to be looking at a new huge tax increase. And I think people are, they're looking for new and better opportunities to get ahead. And we want to do everything we can to make that possible for them. And part of it is creating those better paying jobs, better benefits, and obviously having an economic, a kind of economic activity out there that allows companies to invest and grow and expand. And I think the types of policies that we put in place on the regulatory front, the energy front, the tax front, provide those types of incentives.
It's kind of the catch-22 of solving problems, though, right? As they become less potent political issues.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like the tax thing is a perfect example.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
what you did is save people from having to pay exorbitantly higher taxes next year, but they didn't feel that because you saved them from the problem. The border is another one. I think the 24 election was the first time in my lifetime where the border security bled from a center-right and conservative issue way into the center-left and beyond.
Right.
Depending on where you lived, but you secured the border.
Right.
Right? And so it's not the same kind of potent issue. I think you're right. The economy is the key. You hear a lot of talk about affordability
Right.
and everything else. I know that that's something you and your team have focused a lot on.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think that to that point, most people are pocketbook voters, right? And there are other issues. And I said, I think security and safety, but the fact that the president so quickly and so effectively closed the southern border, dealing with that issue is always going to be out there. But I think most Americans, at least, trust this president and his team to handle that and to handle it effectively. I do think that the challenge going forward is demonstrating to the American people that those policies, like you point out, you avoided a catastrophe. Right. You don't get a lot of credit for avoiding a catastrophe. But there were things in there like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, reduced taxes on Social Security on recipients or seniors, making not only we increased the child tax credit, indexed it for inflation, made it permanent. So there are areas out there in which people are actually going to see lower tax bills overall. Yes, we did extend the 2017 law, made it permanent, which had lower rates, doubling of the child tax credit, near doubling of the standard deduction, all important features to protect them from that tax increase. But I think they will see in other ways. And then the other things we did on the business side to create those incentives for business. I think the bonus depreciation, interest deductibility, R&D expensing, 199A for small businesses deduction. Those are all things that I think are going to unleash a lot of investment in this country. And you're starting to see evidence of that. And if you talk to business leaders, CEOs, both small and large businesses, everybody, as I think, sees that is the country is being well positioned. And we just want to make sure we do everything we can to create the conditions that are favorable for growth.
That kind of answers some of this question, but I think in midterms, clearly the economic condition, the optimism about your own economic situation sort of solidifies where that vote ultimately lands with respect to an incumbent party, which we are now as Republicans. And generally speaking, it's like in the June, July timeframe, right? Where people just sort of come to a realization about whether they're optimistic or not. And I guess what I'm hearing from you is, in talking to people, the infrastructure for what you would see as a good economy or a good outlook at that point in time has been laid. So you do have some optimism about what this economy looks like in 2026 and beyond.
I think that was part of the key, Josh, to getting that vote before the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Because, those things, to get them to take effect, by the time, as people are starting in the 2026 now, they're going to start, making decisions about the questions that you ask. And, is my life better? Am I better off than I was 2 years ago or 4 years ago? And how do I feel about the future for me and for my family and for my kids and my grandkids? As they start to answer those questions, I think you have the foundation laid on which, a lot of these questions can be answered in an affirmative way. but we obviously have to deliver. And I think, as you all know, in politics, it starts with quality candidates. You've got to recruit the good, strong candidates, not just primary, but general election candidates.
I've heard that.
Yeah, you have heard that. I know. And then you have to have a message or a record of accomplishment to run on. And for our incumbents, I believe we'll have that. And then you've got to have, obviously, the resources to get that message out. And then you've got to be able to have the organization to turn out the vote, to get, that has become a very big part of our politics.
Yeah.
And so the ground game is something I'm a big believer in. And I think we're, at least in the Senate, and I think in the House largely too, well positioned. There are things you don't control. I mean, a midterm, this particularly midterm election for a second-term president has always been dicey.
Yeah.
And generally the energy is with the party, the opposition party, the party out of power. But I think if we do things the right way, and like I said, good candidates, record of accomplishment, well-resourced, and a good ground game, I think we've got a we have a formula there for success, and I hope we, for the good of the country, have it.
Phyllis?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to go into is the challenge specifically on the economic front is you guys have laid the foundation for a strong economy. Biden essentially drove the economy into a ditch. You had, record amounts of inflation. The border was let essentially just wide open. And we were told that, nothing can be done about this unless all of Congress acts. Well, it turns out very quickly you can shut the border down. But specifically on the economy, there's been so many things like in the One Big Beautiful Bill that Americans are just finding out about. Like there's this whole conflict of, it's not about messaging, but part of it is about messaging. It wasn't until Michael Dell came out and said that he's going to contribute to a bunch of these children's accounts, which have been created by the One Big Beautiful Bill, that I read the Journal every single day.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know about it until Michael Dell comes out and says he's going to contribute to it. And then the Wall Street Journal does a whole piece about how, yes, every baby born in this country can open a specific savings and retirement account that's going to have a massive difference on their entire lifetime.
Yep.
And that was passed by you guys in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I, as a Republican voter who reads the Journal every single day, watches Bloomberg every day, didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's focusing, right? I mean, there's so much to message.
There is, and that's why I think we did literally a decade's worth of policy.
Yeah, totally.
It's
summer.
incredible.
And so but we haven't had a chance to get out and tell that story yet. And honestly, in the Senate, if you can believe this, by the end of the year, we will have been in session 41 weeks this year. And in Senate terms, that's a lot. So our members haven't had.
And also, just for our listeners, you don't want them there more than
yeah. Believe me. Well said. But I think this next year, obviously the schedule, I think legislatively will be lighter, but we'll have more time to get out. And I think as members get out there on the trail and start telling the story, those newborn accounts, that's a great story.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
And then you talk
it's
about...
going to change people's lives. It's going to change families' trajectories.
Yeah. School choice has been a part of our movement agenda forever. We got that in this. Child care. Things the Dems have been trying to do. Child care tax credits for both employers and employees in this bill. And then, you add all the tax stuff, all the energy stuff, freeing up energy development. There's a ton of things in there that have been part of our agenda for a long time that we're able to get done. We did the Farm Bill.
Yeah.
I mean, there are pieces of it we couldn't do because of the restrictions on how reconciliation can be used, but the safety net provisions, the commodity title, the conservation title, all that stuff. I mean, we took a lot of policy things that have been, sort of built up over time and got them addressed there, and I don't think people realize that
Yeah.
yet. So
defunded
so.
PBS, but they keep showing up.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's that.
You know what? I do want to ask this because there's a big rumor mill swirling about potential House Republican retirements starting into the new year. There's already been a couple of high-profile ones. I'm wondering if you can put on your prediction hat for us and tell us if we should expect any Senate Republican retirements in 2026.
I mean, there's always the possibility, and I think people want to get through the off year before they have to make any of those announcements or decisions. I don't want to say one way or the other. I'm hopeful that we have everybody that's running for re-election again.
Yeah, you should
Obviously,
just start willy-nilly naming names.
Yeah. Well,
no, just feel free. We won't tell anybody.
We, as you know, we've had a few announcements already. I mean, North Carolina, Kentucky, and so those are open
Iowa,
seats in Iowa. But are there more coming? You never know for sure. But I think in most cases we're pretty well positioned in these states to to do well. I mean, I think in Iowa, for example, and you had her
Yeah.
in here, Congresswoman Ashley Hinson is terrific, and
She set a high bar for musical prowess.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
We're just hoping you mentioned maybe a tuba or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Well, you guys be careful because those of us who are purists, it's a sousaphone. It's so a tuba. There is a distinction. The one that goes over your head. That is I was a sousaphone player.
I don't want to dead name the instrument.
Let's show how far out of touch you are in tuba world. But I think we have a really good slate, and in some of these seats too, where for example, where Democrats have retired in Michigan, having Mike Rogers run again, and the Dems have a three-way primary, and then obviously, of course, in New Hampshire, John Sununu, a former colleague, is in that race, and
Which Democrat primaries? They seem a little hairy.
yeah,
these
there's
days.
some interesting on their side too, which we're
Are you
since
going to get
we
in
have
there
an
and
occasional-
Schumer around in those
Yeah,
things,
well,
you think?
we'll see. Yeah.
We'll reserve the right. We'll reserve the
We'll
right.
that right. I can't say to protect the,
Just give us the playbook,
innocent
please.
and the guilty. But no, I think we're well positioned and excited, knowing full well that these types of midterm elections are challenging for the party out of power. But I think given the things that you can control, and there are always things you can't control, but given the things that we can control, I think we've got a good strong message out there, and and if you think about some of the accomplishments in the one big beautiful bill. I think that there's a real message that as we start to deliver that to the American people is going to resonate well out there.
I got to tell you, one of the things I'm most impressed about here in your first year, look, I was in that office. I know what a tough job it is, but also when you come out of a protracted shutdown or these big partisan fights, at the end of the year, morale in a conference, doesn't matter how well you're doing or how many accomplishments, like it's always a touchy thing. We've talked to a ton of Republican senators over the last couple of weeks. Morale's pretty good in your conference. I think
Sure
that's
seems that way.
that's a testament to what you guys are up to. Because man, at the end of the year, I just remember people wanted to kill each other.
Yeah.
Well, there's a certain amount of that too. I don't know who you talked to, but I'm glad they were put on their best face.
Yeah.
No, it is. I mean, and it gets frayed when you're in for an extended period of time and under a lot of pressure, like you are in the middle of a government shutdown. People get edgy, and not only with across the aisle, but on your own side of the aisle as well. People are just it's tiring. And but I think we have worked really hard at trying to keep people unified, and a lot of that is the collaboration, the outreach, and just hearing and listening, and making sure that everybody is hitting on the same cylinder. We've worked really hard at doing that, but it's there's always the next battle, and I talked earlier about some of the things you'd like to do on a bipartisan basis, and we actually, believe it or not, have done a lot of things this year. On a bipartisan basis.
They never get the headlines.
You never get the headlines because all people want to write about is the friction, the fighting, and I realize that's what generates headlines. But we're going to keep grinding and keep our foot on the gas. And I think buckle up. These next couple of weeks are going to be interesting too. We've got a lot to accomplish. But if you look at the number of noms we're going to clear, we're going to vote later today on cloture on about 90 nominees.
Wow, that's
to
awesome.
Get done. And then we'll have the defense authorization bill as soon as that gets closed out. Hopefully soon, up on the floor soon. We're going to give the Dems their health care vote next week, and then try and get on this next appropriations package to fund the government.
So as not to shut that whole thing down.
Well,
again,
it's
right?
just like I said, the things that you should do that are sort of expected. Everything's harder these days. It just is, and but that's why you have to just keep grinding away at it.
Before we let you go, can I get your thumbnail take on Venezuela?
I think that clearly the president, in my view, is operating within his authority as the commander-in-chief, and there is a real threat there. You've got a designated terrorist organization, cartels, that have been operating in ways that have put at risk the security of the American people. I mean, we lose thousands, tens of thousands of people every year to illicit drugs, and a regime down there that is corrupt, and I think that the president, the actions that he's taken are consistent with protecting America's national security interest. I don't know ultimately, where it goes from here, but I think it sent a clear message. And I think the peace through strength theme and approach that this president has taken, not just there but other places around the world, it makes people think twice.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're trying to deter bad behavior, and I'm a big believer in peace through strength, and the deterrence is a big part of our ability to protect the American citizens, I think the president is getting it right.
Yeah. Well, it kind of comes with the territory when you believe America is the leader of the free world. Right?
It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Well, listen, keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, guys.
You're crushing it. Honestly, you and your team have done a terrific job this year. We look forward to next year and
Thank you.
hopefully a bunch of good news to come.
Well, I'm blessed to have good people around me, and as you all know,
Yep.
you're only as good as the team you have around you, and they're very hardworking, very diligent, and care deeply. And I think part of, you know, you do this because you want to be a difference maker.
Yeah.
And I think most of the people who are involved in public life, certainly people I work with and that are around me, are purpose-driven people. They really believe in what they're doing, and that in and of itself kind of helps keep you inspired on the days when you don't feel so much like, like getting up and doing it again.
It's like I always say, you can either try to make a point or you can try to make a difference. And it feels like you guys are focused on the latter of
He
making a
loves
difference.
right.
appropriating people's points. That's his favorite
This
thing.
is the smug thing.
Yeah. He's the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, John Thune.
Thune. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
See you,
coming.
buddy. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good to
you.
be with you all.